Welcome to Chapter 5. In this chapter, we're going to cover rotational harmonic divergence, the counterpart of vertical harmonic divergence. Vertical harmonic divergence, just the up and down, fairly easy to understand. Rotational harmonic divergence is a little bit more complex, but I think if we keep with the idea that the circle of fifths in the chord wheel, we have this round and round, we think that rotational energy, and that's going to help make this concept much clearer. And I think you'll be able to grasp it fairly quickly. Rotational harmonic divergence is based on recognizing and quantifying the potential for sections of chord progressions to move in fourths in a counterclockwise fashion or fifths clockwise. We can make it really easy to visualize. So going to the chord wheel, this type of movement would be moving from the key, in this case of 2 flats, to 1 flat. And this is the fifths, the dominance direction, or the key of 1 flat to no flats. So each of these clockwise is one rotational harmonic divergence. Of course, the same is true in the other direction. It just moves in fourths. So moving from the key of C to the key of F would be a movement in fourths. Let's see this in the real world. Here is I Got Rhythm. I want you to focus on the B section in the middle, where we move from D7 to G7 to C7 to F7. Between each of these is a symbol showing a 1 with a counterclockwise rotation. Heading over the chord wheel, here we have D7, 1 click to the left, G7, 1 click to the left, C7, 1 click to the left, F7. Back to our progression, we can see this is exactly what this composition does. This is called the dominant cycle, and it's a very common technique in music composition, especially jazz. If you've ever heard the term rhythm changes, it comes from this particular song, I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin. The overall progression is what is considered rhythm changes, but this dominant cycle in the middle is a fundamental piece of it. So anytime you see these ones with counterclockwise indicators, you'll know that you're working with a dominant cycle. So because we cycle back counterclockwise, we are moving in fourths. And you'll see that designated here by a roots fourth cycle. But I want to bring up something that's very important. A roots fourth cycle doesn't always have to be a dominant cycle. For example, within this progression, notice if you will, there's another fourth cycle highlighted here in I Got Rhythm. But as you notice, it's not a dominant 7th cycle. But look closely and this time only consider the root note of each of these chords. Doesn't matter what type they are, just the root. We go from D to G to C to F to B flat to E flat. Let's go to the chord wheel. Let's get this out of the way for a second and only think about the roots. D to G to C to F to B flat to E flat. So the symbol I've developed for this is a counterclockwise 1 and a clockwise 1. So in terms of the degrees of harmonic divergence, when we talk about it rotational, because we don't have half rotational steps, each particular click, clockwise or counterclockwise, is 1 degree of rotational harmonic divergence. So we've got the negative 1s, 2s, and 3s, and positive 1, 2s, and 3s. Now in terms of terminology, for rotational terminology, I like to use counter and clock. So a 1 counter, a 2 counter, a 3 counter, or a 1 clock, 2 clock, or a 3 clock. That way you don't have to say clockwise every single time. So we've reached the conclusion of Chapter 5. The next chapter is particularly exciting. In Chapter 6, we're going to take what we've learned about harmonic divergence in a vertical and rotational manner, and we're going to bring it together in something I call harmonic divergence equivalence. A little bit of a mouthful, but you're going to find it very exciting.